Have you ever wondered if there's rules about something? Well, I think there's a turtle on my head, but there's no rules about having a turtle on your head at work or in class. At least one, not one that I know of. So we'll take him down and make him my recording buddy for the day. Today we'll be looking at some more punctuation that we can use in our writing to make it better, stronger, more understandable for our readers. And we're going to take a look at our dashes, the regular dash or hyphen, the N dash or the M dash, and then we'll look at semicolon and colon usage because they're very often used inappropriately, and I want to make sure that your writing is the best it can possibly be. So let's dive in and see how we use these things. Okay, more punctuation. Here we go. Professor Luke Buckley back at you with some more tips and tricks to fill our toolbox up. Punctuation is kind of the salt and pepper we use to throw into our sentences to break things up, give it a little bit more flavor and seasoning, and help our reader, again, not get lost. That is our goal. First one we're going to look at is the hyphen today, also called a dash. It does not have any spaces before or after it, and is generally on the keyboard right after the letter 0. Don't use the shift, otherwise you'll get the underscore. Okay, let's see how we use it. First big use, numbers and fractions. We can use hyphens in our numbers, and we generally do it for between 21 and 99 when we're spelling them out. We use it to phone numbers, and we also use it with our compound adjectives when they have numbers in them. Let's take a look at an example. Here we go, 42. If we're saying the number 42 when we're spelling it out, the hyphen goes between the 40 and the 2. 8675309, the dash goes between the first 3 and the last 4 digits for a phone number. If you included the area code in there, you can put parentheses around the area code, or you can include the area code, another dash, and then the exchange number. Okay, 32-inch TV, dash goes between the 32 and the inch. Moving on, we put hyphens in our fractions in adjective and adverbs, but we do not hyphenate the fraction itself or the denominator when it's there. Okay, so we see hyphenated 1/3 share, it's an adjective, or 2/5 full. Boom, hyphen. Not hyphenated though is the 1/100ths. 53 and 21 are hyphenated. The fraction itself, or our denominator, 100ths, is not. You notice there's no dash there. All right, do not hyphenate your fraction when it is treated as a noun. Well, what does that mean? Okay, let's look at an example. 3/4 of the year. There is no dash here because this is a noun. Quarters is used as a noun in this particular writing. Age, when describing someone's age, if it's used as an adjective, we hyphenate it. A 19-year-old student. And my guidance for doing this that I learned long ago is if we cannot take these words apart that modify this, it's got to be hyphenated. So can we say a 19 student? No, that doesn't make sense. Can we say a year student? That doesn't make sense. Can we say an old student? Well, yes, but in context, these all have to work together. So it has to be a 19-year-old student. So we need to hyphenate them. But if our age is not used as an adjective, then we do not hyphenate it. So we have our subject here, our verb here, and then information about the student. 19 years old, not hyphenated. Compound words. Use a dash or a hyphen if it could be misunderstood. Some fun ones coming up. Let's look at these examples. Okay, hyphenated, Bob is a big city worker. Not hyphenated, Bob is a big city worker. Okay, up here, Bob works in a large city or a big city. Here, Bob is a big guy who works for the city. Think Jason Momoa in Aquaman. All right, so we do also use hyphens when we have a compound adjective appearing before the word it describes. Okay. First floor apartment. Remember the trick from a couple slides ago. Can you say it's a first apartment or a floor apartment and have it have the same meaning? No. so it's got to be a first floor hyphenated apartment. All right, so we do not hyphenate an adjective-noun combination. You need to know which are which. We had a slide deck on the 8 parts of speech. You can go back and review that. My apartment is on the first floor. Okay? Here would be the words in question. We do not need to hyphenate those. Adjective, noun, combination. If we have more combinations, then we can do this, right? 2 or more compound adjectives with the same base. Everything is referring to years. So, first, hyphen, comma, space. Second, hyphen, comma, space. And this is our serial list rules from our comma talk. Third, year, and that all modifies students. So this is the appropriate way to do this. Make sure you do this when you're writing and turn it into me or anybody else for that matter. All right, 2 or more adjectives combined to modify the same noun. What does this mean? Here we go. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Put a hyphen between every single word there because they all modify opportunity. The 3-day weekend and the old-fashioned clothes. However, when they are open or separate, North American, we do not use our dash, and carefree, handmade, foolproof, kind-hearted are examples of closed compound adjectives. 2 words put together to make one. A compound noun, it's 2 words that together form a noun. If you're unsure, this is great guidance. If you are unsure, look it up. Remember, I told you guys are Sherlock Holmes this semester. Eye opener, we'll use a hyphen. Eyewitness, we'll stick them together as a compound word. And eyeshadow, we'll use as 2 words. Sometimes it gets confusing though. Paperclip with a hyphen, paperclip with no space, and paperclip with a space. This is where I say you will want to consult your company's style sheet. They've probably made a decision as to how you are going to refer to this. All right, let's move on to the next dash. It's a little bit longer, and it's called the N dash. Why? Because in the old days of typesetting, when you had to go over and get those little pieces of letters and stick them in the line for the printing press, the N dash was as wide as the capital letter N. And it has different uses than the short dash we just talked about, or hyphen. Okay? So, the first is to indicate a range. This is a range of numbers or pages, etc. Maybe times. See, this is how it's done. Years 2000 to 2010, between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., and pages 26 through 30. Now, if you noticed on the slide deck before, it said style guides differ on whether there is spaces included between the N dash or not. You need to decide who you are writing to and what they require. Right down here we have, if you have a range of time with the words from or between, etc., to make those comparisons, you do not use the N dash. You write out the word to instead. Okay. To show a relationship can be a conflict, can be a connection, can be a separation, or a direction. Examples of that would be the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Use the N dash. Mother-daughter bond, N dash. Blood-brain barrier, N dash. Okay? Showing relationships, N dash. All right, now it's time to move on to our last dash, and it is called the M dash. It is the longest of our dashes, and it is generally, in the old days, the width of a capital letter M, as in mother. Always omit spaces, okay? For the M dashes, there is no spaces either before or after the M dash. It sucks right up to the letter it is next to. And since emphasis is placed on material either before or after, it's best not to include too many of them. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of lines through your writing, and it looks kind of silly. Let's look at an example. Generally, our M dashes are used for parenthetical thoughts that come either mid or end sentence. It doesn't make any sense to put a parenthetical thought at the first part of our sentence, okay? So, clarifies or explains or maybe provides an exception to our main clause. Here we go. A colossal squid, previously thought to be a creature of legend, was recently caught by fishermen. Okay? We can take out our parenthetical thought and say a colossal squid was recently caught by fishermen. That gives us the idea that something happened, but, right, we want to add something. We want to give a little extra spice to our sentence. So we say previously thought to be a creature of legend, much like Moby Dick's great white whale, right, or the Kraken. Release the Kraken. It might come at the end of the sentence, and then you'll just plop it in there with your M dash, no spaces, notice. The school embraces interdisciplinary learning. That is, students explore a theme or question through multiple academic disciplines. Means interdisciplinary. All right, now our semicolon, sometimes called the super comma, okay? Because it's a period on top of a comma. Everybody knows what a semicolon does. It creates more separation between our thoughts. A comma separates things in lists or thoughts, etc. But it's not quite as final as when a period ends the sentence. A period ends our sentences. The most common usage. There's really only 3 ways that are appropriate to use the semicolon. Remember that. 3 ways. Really 2 very common ways, and 1 if you're doing research that will show up quite often. Right? The only place you should put a semicolon is to help separate items in a list when those items already contain commas in them. Let's look at this. I bought shiny ripe apples, semicolon, small, comma, sweet, comma, juicy grapes, semicolon, and firm pears. You can see where if I used commas here and here, the sentence would not make much sense. So I am separating my list items with semicolons. Appropriate. To join 2 sentences together, and we talked about this. What kind of sentences were those? Simple, compound, complex, or compound, complex? Dun dun dun. Think about that. I went to the grocery store today, semicolon, I bought a ton of fruit. Apples, grapes, and pears were all on sale. Here is my semicolon. It omits me having to use a comma and coordinating conjunction, which help me build a compound sentence, I hear you say. That's great. Compound, more of the same. 2 independent clauses. They're the same type of clauses. And notice that you do not need the coordinating conjunction. The third use, and this will be most appropriate to us, is to help separate items in an in-text citation when you have more than one reference that supports your citation. Let's look at that. The cheese was proven to exhibit some amazing properties. We have 3 papers we are citing here: Buckley 2020, Smith and Petty in 2018, and Zanto et al. In 2019. Okay? And this is the appropriate way to cite multiple sources. This paper only had 1 author. This paper had 2, Smith and Petty, with the ampersand dividing them. And this paper had 3 or more. In APA version 7, this is how we do it. Zanto et al. Notice no period here, comma, and then the space and the date. Make sure you do this right when you're doing in-text citations. All right, our friend the colon. Colons follow independent clauses. These are clauses that can stand alone, and they present an explanation, or they draw attention to something, or slap our ideas together. We might want to show how we do this. All right, so for a list in a series, we say we covered many of the fundamentals in our writing class. Here's our colon. We're bringing attention to this list. These items were fundamentals: grammar, punctuation, style, and voice. My roommate gave me the things I needed most. For a noun, noun, phrase example: companionship and quiet. A quotation example: Shakespeare said it best: colon, open quote, the quote, end quote. Notice the most important part about using your colon is everything that precedes the colon must be a complete thought, or it must be able to stand alone. Okay? Remember that. Big gold nugget in our talk here. All right, common errors. Common errors in using our punctuation. Using a colon between its object or complement. The very best peaches are, colon used incorrectly, those that are grown in the great state of Georgia. There should be no colon here. That's an inappropriate use of it. Putting a colon between a preposition and its object. My favorite cake is made of, colon, da 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 da, our list. Why is this wrong? Remember what I said the slide before this. Whatever precedes the colon must be a complete thought. The very best peaches are is not. My favorite cake is made of is not. Fails the test. Using a colon after such as, including, especially, it violates the rule that material preceding the colon must be a complete thought, and here's an example of that. All right, that brings us to the end of this slide deck. Look at these very carefully and with a critical eye. Build your toolbox, and let's see what our closing comments are for this lesson. Well, that was interesting. We learned that there are many rules available for us to follow when writing and using punctuation. We learned about our dash. We learned about our en dash for ranges. We learned about our em dash for parenthetical thoughts. We learned that a semicolon doesn't go anywhere we want it to. And we learned that anything that precedes the colon must be a complete thought, and anything that comes after it emphasizes what came before. Wow, interesting. So I think there's a turtle on my shoulder instead of on top of my head now. So we're going to go see what else we can learn. Professor B out. Stay tuned for the next episodes, and let's keep having fun while we're learning. Fill your toolboxes and be better writers.